Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast, powered by Advanced Takedown Tree Stands, episode number 197. SHANYN HART, from Buffalo County to Iowa, Miss Wildgame. Please support our sponsors as they make this show possible. Today's show is sponsored by Advanced Takedown Tree Stands, Covert Scouting Cameras, the Horny Buck Seed Company, the Euro Hanger, and Morse's Sporting Goods. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
Hi, this is Dan Infold from HuntingBeast.com. You're about to listen to one of my favorite podcasts, Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hey guys, this is Laurie Eakin with the Hunting Widow Podcast, and you're listening to the Big Buck Registry, my second favorite podcast.
I'm Stacy Lynn Harris from GameandGarden.com, and I'm listening to my favorite podcast, the Big Buck Registry.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning into our podcast here once again. I'm Jay, and I'm sitting here in Podcast Studio North, and my good friend Dusty Phillips is in Podcast Studio South, which is in Ohio. And Dusty, what's happening?
Just getting ready to hit the woods for my first turkey hunt this Saturday. So, season opened Monday, and today I'll be hunting turkeys.
I was going to say, you were playing me a little tune there before we got on the air. You want to give me a little sample?
Yeah, I was just messing around a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. You ought to be hammering on that.
They ought to be hammering. Well, I'm wishing you well. I hope everything goes as they do in New Hampshire for you. We'll see if your luck is still in Ohio or if you have to come back here.
Yeah. You just never know.
You don't know, man. Don't know. I'm sure you'll be on some birds.
I'm hoping to.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to get out on Wednesday. Me and Greg are going to take to the woods and see if we can have our go with a long beard around here.
Nice. Yeah, your youth season's today and Saturday, and then you'll go into
May 3rd.
Yeah.
May 3rd. May 3rd through the 31st here in New Hampshire.
Awesome.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So it's always a good time. I just, gosh darn it, it's just so much fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty bummed, really.
Yeah, well, I'm bummed too. I'm bummed that we couldn't have you come back.
Yeah, I want to, but just not working out this year.
It's not that easy to hunt in multiple states. I mean, it can be if that's your job, but when you're just trying to do it recreationally, it's not as easy as you think.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it ain't over. It ain't over yet. So
that's true. Things can happen. Things can happen.
I mean, I bear hunted on short notice, so we'll see. We'll see. Fall turkey was good. It was a quick hunt and found a cheap flight and craziness.
Exactly, man. Well, I'm just glad that there's yet another season underway, and everybody's kind of doing that thing on Facebook and social media and doing the can't stop the flop, as Mr. Kearney likes to say.
Right, yeah, that seems to be a pretty popular hashtag here lately.
It really is. Well, I know it's a little premature, and deer season isn't here yet, and someday it will be. We're not hunting turkeys out of tree stands, but we are running that harness program still. We're trying to get people to send some in so that we can get them in the hands of the people that need them. And if you are interested in participating, just shoot me or Dusty an email, jay@bigbuckregistry.com or dusty@bigbuckregistry.com. And we're still doing that live feed show on Thursdays at 8:30. We moved it out a little bit because it seems like the later we go, we get more coverage coast to coast. So it kind of reminds me of the old Thursday night television. Those half-hour shows you used to tune into as a kid. Thursdays at like 6. Of course, we're doing Thursdays at 8:30. But if you'd like to come hang out with us, and see all our friends kind of goof around a little bit. Thursdays, 8:30 on our Facebook page. We're going live, and we're bringing in all our buddies. And if you'd like to join us, maybe we can arrange that too. And again, just shoot me an email, Jay@BigBuckRegistry, and we'll see if we can get you live on the air with some of our former guests.
It's a lot of fun. We get to all hang out and cut up and have a good time, and everybody that's followers get join in with us. And man, it's like one big family. It's unique.
It is quite a party. Absolutely, it's a party. Very much so. This week's guest is SHANYN HART, and Shannon is really starting to make a name for herself. She's a fun gal too. We got a chance to talk to her for quite a while, and I'm always amazed when people talk to you and you realize if they're the real deal or not after you have a good conversation with them. Well, Shannon is the real deal. She was able to carry on and give us lots of even tips that she thought of on how to set up food plots and on her acreage that I don't think I've heard anybody talk about yet. And for reasons I'm going to leave the podcast to explain. But it's brilliant. It actually makes a lot of sense. And I never really thought about setting up food plots the way she has described. But that was just the beginning. I mean, there's all kinds of things coming from Buffalo County, Wisconsin, where, the mecca of whitetail hunting has become. I don't know if it's still that today, but it certainly gets lots and lots of recognitions over the years. And now she's in Iowa, changing up her routine a little bit, going from that drive hunting to more stand hunting and management. So we're going to get into all of that in just a moment with SHANYN HART. But before we get there, let's turn to Jim Keller with the Deer News.
The Deer News this week is sponsored by the Euro Hanger. You don't have to spend big bucks to hang your big buck. Get yourself a Euro Hanger. Facebook.com/Eurohanger, EUROHANGER.
For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News. Our first story this week. You may be surprised to know this about hunting. This story was originally featured on the deeranddeerhunting.com website and was written by Alan Clemens. The National Shooting Sports Foundation has launched a new campaign called You Might Be Surprised to Know This About Hunting, to connect and even surprise the non-hunting public with stories about improved wildlife populations and the conservation efforts of hunters. NSSF presents this social media campaign in a 5-part infographic series that will reintroduce hunters and hunting to the public. With most people these days living in cities, suburbs, and non-hunting households, many misperceptions of what hunting is and what hunting does have developed. In response, this campaign works to explain hunting's connection to the values of today's socially and environmentally conscious culture. The campaign recognizes the locavore movement and the fact long known to hunters that game meat is nutritious and healthful. NSF highlights venison with double the iron, fewer calories, more protein, and better fats than typical meats like lamb, beef, turkey, and chicken, making it a truly healthy alternative. This campaign seeks to demonstrate that if you support the environment, preservation of land, animal conservation, and personal nutrition, then you can support hunting. 2016 New Hampshire Wildlife Harvest Summary available. This one's for Jay. This story was originally featured on the Outdoor News Daily website. As hunters gear up for fall season in New Hampshire, a rich source of information available to them is the 2016 New Hampshire Wildlife Harvest Summary, which presents final data summarized by wildlife biologists from the 2016 New Hampshire hunting seasons. This annual publication provides a complete breakdown of hunting season statistics, including some information by town and wildlife management unit. In 2016, New Hampshire Wildlife Harvest Summary is available online at www.wildnh.com/hunting/harvest-summary.html. A limited number of print copies are available at the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department in Concord and regional offices in Durham, New Hampton, Lancaster, and Keene. The report confirms that New Hampshire's 2016 deer season resulted in a total harvest of 10,675 deer, a decrease of 1% from 2015. For 2016, the heaviest deer, 265 pounds, was taken by Michael Merrill of Washington, Vermont, using a muzzleloader. The report also provides statistics for moose, bear, turkeys, and fur bears. Wildlife research and management activities in New Hampshire, including production of the annual NH Wildlife Harvest Summary, are funded through federal aid and wildlife restoration, a user-pay, user-benefit program supported by the purchase of firearms, ammunition, and archery equipment. Learn more about hunting in New Hampshire at www.huntnh.com/hunting. Florida man tries to kiss cottonmouth snake, hospitalized after bite. This story was originally featured on the OutdoorHub.com website and was reported by Daniel Zhu. One Florida man learned the hard way that water moccasins do not make the best kissing partners. 18-year-old Austin Hatfield of Wamama was hospitalized last Saturday after being bitten by a cottonmouth while attempting to kiss it. Friends said that Hatfield had captured the snake from his girlfriend's yard several days before and was keeping it in a pillowcase. Hatfield occasionally took the snake out to kiss it on the mouth, but on Sunday the snake decided to end the relationship. He took it out, put it on his chest, and it was acting funny, and it jumped up and got him, said Jason Belcher, who witnessed the attack. He ripped it off his face, threw it to the ground, and he started swelling up immediately. It was pretty frightening. The 18-year-old was transported to Tampa General Hospital's emergency room in critical condition, but doctors have since said that he is expected to recover. Although cottonmouth bites can be effectively treated with antivenom, the snake is still considered very dangerous and have been known to cause fatalities. Common symptoms of a cottonmouth bite include severe swelling, intense pain, and signs of shock due to the body's reaction to the venom. Officials from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission said they are investigating the case and have euthanized the snake that is believed to have bitten Hatfield. According to FWC spokesperson Gary Morse, Hatfield could face charges of illegally capturing and keeping the cottonmouth without a permit. Cottonmouths, also known as mangrove rattlers or worm-tailed pit vipers, are considered dangerous animals, and Morris said that those who come across them should keep their distance. That concludes this week's edition of the Big Buck Registry's Deer News. For links to the stories featured this week, please check our show notes at www.bigbuckregistry.com. If you have any ideas for future topics or have questions about any of these topics, please email me at jim@bigbuckregistry.com. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Thanks to Jim Keller with the Deer News. Without further ado, here's Shannon Hart.
Shannon Hart, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. How are you, my friend?
Very good. How are you guys?
We're doing well. Turkey season's right around the corner, so I'm getting excited. Had some big strutters in the yard today.
They've been ditching me quite a bit. My boyfriend Thomas is not on the good list right now. So.
It's not on the good list. Tell us more about that.
No. Oh, we had some encounters. I went out a few times now. We've been open a week now here in Iowa and gone out with my bow and couldn't get them to commit and come in. And the day I did, I had 4 other people in the blind and
wow.
caught the blind with my broadhead and missed them. So we'll head back out there again this week and try it again.
It's kind of a crowded blind, man, unless you've got one of those big XL units.
Oh, we did. It wasn't too bad, but it was the first time I hunted with that many people. So I don't know if it was the nerves flying or what was going on, but yeah, it didn't work out too well in my favor.
Were you trying to get capture some video at the same time?
We were, yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So my cameraman was in there with me, and it was cool, but yeah, it was just too many people wanting to come watch, and it just didn't happen.
Okay. That makes sense. That explains the crowded blind. Well, excellent.
Yeah.
Shannon, I'm glad you're joining us. I want to get to know all about you and who you are, where you're from, and what makes you tick, and kind of who and what made you who you are today. And I'd like to learn a lot about your television show that's coming up in May and find out when that's going to air. And maybe you can give us a little sneak peek behind some of the things that we might expect. And I don't expect you to give away the farm, but I sure would like to know a little bit about what's going on that show.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So tell me about growing up, Shannon. Where are you originally from?
So I'm originally from Buffalo County, Wisconsin, the mecca of white-tailed deer hunting in Wisconsin there. And it was amazing growing up there and growing up with my family and going out on deer drives back in the day, and ever since I could, and started hunting the minute it was legal to.
Right.
And went out with deer drives and did that for the longest time. And of course, I was one of the smaller ones in the 20-person group, so I got kicked to the top of it. We got huge bluffs in Buffalo County, and so of course I get kicked to the top of the bluff to do drives. So I was a shotgun hunter for the longest time because I was doing drives all the time because nobody wanted to go up to the top of the bluff. But
right,
so that's where it all started and where I grew up, and
that's pretty interesting. I had a good conversation with a fellow hunter this week about drives, and we were talking about how a lot of the nationally recognized world records were on drive campaigns. And it was an interesting conversation, and I'm glad you brought up drives because I wanted to kind of hear your perspective on like where you got started with that and how you were introduced to the whole drive style hunting. I recognize it as a very useful technique, and sometimes I think it's frowned upon in the community. I'm not sure why, but it's been a long time traditional style hunting, and it certainly has aided in harvesting and killing of some of the greatest bucks of all time. So tell me about your experience and how that all got started.
Absolutely, yeah. So I definitely see both sides of the spectrum with doing deer drives. You know, I grew up doing that for more years than not, and really saw the benefit from that, filling the freezer. Everybody filled the freezer with those drives. It was awesome. I mean, I think the negative part of it, where it comes from, is these, which I am a management hunter myself now, but I wasn't back then. But the management hunters, they sit there and watch a deer all year round, or they're growing their herd, or they're trying to get it under control. And you have the deer, the neighbors come in and do a deer drive, and they shoot your 6.5-year-old buck or 4.5-year-old buck that you've been trying to grow, or even 2.5-year-old. And to be a management hunter and hear the neighbors killed your prodigy during a deer drive,
right.
I think, that's definitely, that happened to me this year, actually. I was watching a 3.5-year-old club drop, and he went to stake ground, and they were doing a deer drive, and one of the shotgun deer drivers killed him, and it was heartbreaking. But on the other side, it does a lot of good too if you got to clear out does. And Buffalo County, it's kind of become a little bit doe heavy. Actually, not a little bit, a lot doe heavy.
Right.
So the people have gone away from it, but I definitely see the need for it, but I also see the harmful effects of it as well.
I've done deer drives before. I've never had any issues, but it has taken, I think the whole bow hunting scheme has kind of taken over, and where the stand hunting seems to be the more accepted route, or where you're almost a one-on-one situation instead of ganging up on the deer. And
yeah,
I think it definitely has its place, and I think it always will, but it is interesting how it's become controversial in a sense. It's kind of weird. So Buffalo County, let's talk about Buffalo County for a little while. So you grew up in the mecca of whitetail country. I mean, if there's any place in the entire United States that is recognized as one of the hands-down favorite places to go or traditional deer hunting spots, is Buffalo County. Tell us about growing up there and how you saw it versus how we see it from not being there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm 27 now. So when I started hunting, that's really when everything started blowing up in Buffalo County. Interbows had established a really good setting there with Bluff Country Outfitters, and Bluff Bucks was coming in. There was just a bunch of outfitters coming in, and I didn't really understand that at that time. So really what I saw of it was deer hunting in Buffalo County was you get up at the crack of dawn and you meet everybody at around 11 o'clock noon to go and do your deer drives, and you just see dots of orange in every section that you possibly can.
Right.
And it was
Orange Army.
Yeah, it was. It was absolute Orange Army. And it was really a camaraderie thing. Everybody, kids, moms at, dinner or whatever, everybody meets down at the local tavern or the restaurant at the end of the day. And it's this big party at the end of the day, whether you didn't get anything or you got everything. And back in the day, it was unheard of for a group not to get something good out of a deer drive or just a party hunt or whatever they were doing. Right. But that's what really turned me on to hunting, actually, was the camaraderie and the tradition and hanging out with my cousins and my dad and my brother and uncles. And it was just a really good time, and that stuck with me. And I wanted to keep doing it every single year as a 11-year-old blonde little girl in Wisconsin.
It is interesting how much camaraderie there is involved in hunting, and it definitely is one of my favorite parts. And Dusty and I, we have some fun hunting times, and when we're not out hunting together, because we usually aren't, because we live in different parts of the country. But even then, there's a camaraderie that's based around hunting. And when we're together, it's absolutely just some of the most fun times I've ever had. And
oh yeah,
it seems like that's how a lot of this stuff happens. And I think kids pick up on that and enjoy that aspect because it's a fun, jolly time. Everybody's happy all the time for the most part.
Absolutely. Deer camp is the funnest time of year. It's better than Christmas. Absolutely.
You cannot purchase memories made while you're hunting. It's priceless.
No, definitely not.
It is interesting. So where is the local celebration point in the town that you were living in Buffalo County? Where do people go to unwind and tell stories and just be jolly about a day in the field?
Yeah, so there was a local tavern called and I know everybody that's hunted Buffalo County back in the day is going to know exactly what I'm talking about. This little hole in the wall in Prague, Wisconsin, called the Prague Frog. It's now
the Prague Frog. Nice.
It's now called Buck Knuckles, and it's been renovated into this gorgeous, like anything that you've seen in American Pickers, they have in there.
Really?
Dennis and Kathy have just done an amazing job, and it's definitely a destination when you're not hunting. They get car shows coming through there and a bunch of people coming through, but it's absolutely a place to check out, and that's where everyone goes during, that first weekend of gun season. And then also the Wamedy House was party central. They always have a DJ going on and everyone's there. They have great food and just those two places, it was kind of like a make your way home type deal to one or the other and meet up with everybody in the Tri-Valleys there.
I'm reading about Buck Knuckles Bar and Grill as I speak in Elma, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It's saying it's a well-known roadhouse featuring American food, billiards, and offbeat decor. That must be the American Pickers decor that you're referencing. That sounds like a good place.
Yeah, like this. It's awesome. The ceilings are covered in old cast iron tractor seats. The bar's made of pennies. The fan is made out of a windmill and an old tub. Like it's neat. You can't even describe it. It's just amazing.
That's funny. So. Tell me about a couple of experiences there when you were getting into the camaraderie side of things. Can you remember a special moment?
Oh, yeah. And my family is probably going to kill me because I think this is the second podcast I've had to say this on. But this is a lot different audience, so I'm pretty sure none of them have heard it.
Right.
But so the very first time I went out, I wasn't carrying a gun yet because I think I was only 9 or 10, and I think the age was 11 or 12 to carry. But once we got closer to that age, our family would, allow us to go on the drives and just walk without a gun. Just be one of the armies moving towards the standards. And that's what I was doing. And again, I was the littlest one. So of course I get volunteered to go to the top of the bluff and was with my cousin Gary. And all of a sudden this group of does and fawns come flying through the middle of us drivers and almost run me over. And of course I'm the one that doesn't have a gun. So he just screams at me and he goes, "Shannon, get down," because nobody else can see where I was at because we were kind of on this ledge. And I just hit the ground and deer are flying around me. And this is kind of where it starts getting a little sketchy with the deer drive sometimes. Because on those bluffs, you see everyone. And there were bullets flying and he's just like, "Get down." It felt like I was in a war. It was like a traumatic experience for a 9-year-old. But it was pretty awesome at the same time.
Wow. And then, so this carried over to the going to the Buck Knuckles after in the conversation.
Pretty much. Yeah. That story is still told every single time we all get together. That's for sure.
Who was around you? Like, who are your people of influence that kind of got you into hunting in the first place?
Definitely my dad. Like he, he's the one that took me out. I was wearing his hand-me-down orange jacket because obviously there was definitely nothing for girls then and barely anything for kids. And wore his orange jacket and red windbreaker pants. Not the most stealth equipment.
Yeah. But so the polyester rubbing together as you're walking to the blind.
Literally, yeah. It was good.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely my dad. And then one of his best friends, Kurt, who took me, because my dad didn't turkey hunt at all, but my dad's best friend took me out during school, actually. So I thought that was pretty cool to ditch school and go hunting, and shot my first turkey out. I think I was 13, and did that with my dad's best friend. And it's more of a community thing. It was just the whole Valley family. It was awesome.
Gotcha. So your dad is the big influencer in this whole aspect. Was he kind of a focal person in your hunting community, period, or was he really just doing a solo venture with you, trying to teach you the ways of the woods?
It actually was kind of a group effort, because we didn't. I had no patience at all when I was little, so I could barely sit for 10 minutes, and I'd be, wanting to walk around or do something. So I always went on these drives. And most of the time I wasn't even with my dad. We had to talk on our way over, to Uncle Jim's farm to go hunt, and, about the safety, and, did the practice shooting and target practice before we'd head out and all of that good stuff. But it was really, my older cousins, like second cousins, so my dad's age or whatever, and that really watched over me, and whoever was next to me, they, told me about what they would do wrong or what they did wrong and what I could learn from them. And then, at the end of the day, my dad was always a one shot and done type of person. My dad's the sheriff of our county, so he
All right.
He's around guns quite a bit. So he always jokes. He goes, "Yep, one shot and done. Didn't need to use another shot." So I always had to live up to the standard.
He's the guy that says, "I only need one bullet in my firearm," and that's it.
Yep.
Okay. That makes sense. I know those guys. So it sounded like you had a very rich childhood.
I did.
Specific to hunting, it sounds like you had a pretty good childhood overall growing up in Buffalo County.
Absolutely.
So you're not.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So you got to wonder, you're not there now. Why separate yourself from such a fantastic place?
I still had property back there, and I didn't get to hunt it this year. I hunted it the last couple of years since we moved, but my husband and I were living in Minnesota when we met, and we were only a couple hours from the Iowa border, and he drew a tag that year for Iowa. So we went down to southeast Iowa, and he didn't get a buck that year. We passed up quite a bit. We've just kind of came back from that trip and looked at each other and said, what are we doing with our lives? We have businesses where we can go pretty much anywhere, and decided right then and there that we were going to look for a place in Iowa, because, it's a tough thing when you can only draw every 3 to 5 years for an Iowa tag. And once you have a taste of Iowa, anyone that's hunted it will tell you the exact same thing, how they'd want to move here. And that's what we did.
Gotcha. Okay. So tell me about Iowa. What's it like to you? How is it different than Buffalo County, Wisconsin, or the Wisconsin that you left?
The management here is it's not so much better, but it's not as pressured. Buffalo County, it's every 20 acres has a hunter on it. And there's those big tracts yet in Buffalo County. I think one is like 7 miles long, where it's the same continuous owner, which is awesome, but there's very few of those around there. Here in Iowa, the tracts are much larger, and the management is very controlled, and you don't have out-of-state hunters coming in as much as Wisconsin. So that makes a huge difference. It's played a big role in how we hunt and why we moved here, and it's only been a bit beneficiary for us.
Gotcha. So the style of hunting and it sounds like almost the general philosophy of how to go about the herd is a different mindset.
It is. Yeah, it really is. It's a lot about quality management and growing your deer. People aren't as boastful over here either. Not that, Buffalo County is, but you hunt Buffalo County and you want to tell everyone. In Iowa, and people are probably sitting here right now saying, "Shannon, shut up. Don't tell them how good it is," type deal. But it is. It's a very kept secret, and it's basically just because we can't get over-the-counter tags, and it takes years to draw, especially if you're a bow.
Gotcha. Very, very interesting.
From going where you come from to Iowa, it's probably a complete game changer.
It is, yeah. I started the management side of things when I was in Buffalo County and started to learn about that a lot more. And applying it here in Iowa, it's just a little bit easier getting control on it. I say that in one breath, and then the deer that I wanted to grow got shot on a deer drive a couple of properties away. But it's still a little bit better and easier to manage over here.
When you say it's easier to manage, what are you doing different in Iowa versus Wisconsin? Tell us kind of how you manage your area.
Yeah, so the track, like I said before, like the land tracts around here are quite a bit bigger. You rarely find a 40, whereas in Buffalo County, it's all split up into 40s and even lower than that. So everybody has a piece of the cake. And when you do that, not everybody gets that center cream, It's here, they're much larger. You have 80 to 1,000 acre tracts, and you're just able to control your deer herd a little bit better too, and able to coerce them to stay on your property with the right amount of food. And obviously it takes a lot of work. I don't say it's easier. It's actually a lot more work because you have so much more ground to cover, but it's a little bit easier because you have more space to do it, and you're not constantly fighting your neighbor who is 500 feet away from you and doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. And is there anything in particular that you do to change it up a little bit so that maybe you're doing something different than your neighbors? Is there anything out of the box that you're doing there to manage the deer?
Absolutely. So we designate about, I think we have almost 30% of our property in refuge now. I think it was 20 last year, but I think it's 30 now this year with this new property. But we don't go in it. We refuge it completely out for our deer. Never set foot in it unless we shoot one and it runs in there. Don't put cameras in there. Don't put food in there. The only time we went in was to make it a little bit more thick and nasty, like they like it. And that's it. And then we don't go in. We don't hunt the outside of it. We leave it completely alone. And that has been so beneficial, especially we saw a huge benefit for that during the gun season. We didn't gun hunt at all this year, basically because we just wanted to, this is our first year on the property, so we wanted to watch and observe what was happening around us and the neighbors and what they were doing. And it was amazing how many deer refuged in that 20% of the property. It was just insane. And I think that's what really sets us aside from maybe some of the neighbors where they'll hunt every inch they can. And that's actually more harmful because you're not giving that deer a safe haven. And they still have to come out for food. They can browse a bunch. But as you guys know, those deer like a buffet style. They're going to go and grab something else to eat rather than just the browsing. And, and then, of course, the rut, that's where they're going to mess up. But leaving that refuge is a huge vantage point for our deer and us as the managers of the property. Oh yeah, for sure.
What are you doing as far as food plots? Can you get in a little bit about your food plots in your hunting area?
Yeah, absolutely. So we ran into an issue last year where we had too many deer, so they didn't even let our soybeans or anything get to plant. They just went and ate them right away. So we've actually gone ahead and done fire breaks around all of our food plots, and if our CRP contracts allowed, around them as well. And that's the Conservation Reserve Program. It's set up by the state and helps promote conservation, soil quality, and that's something that you would have to check with your FSA office with in your state and stuff. But so that's what I talk about that's what I mean when I'm talking about a CRP field. But we set up these fire breaks full of clover around each one of those fields, and it allows them to have that staging area and also fill their bellies a little bit with alfalfa, which, as we know, has a lot of protein in it, and it's going to, fill them up a little bit before they get to our soybean field, which hasn't even started to sprout yet, and hopefully save our soybeans a little bit. So we're still in the trial area here, but it seems to be going good so far, and they're getting their bellies filled before they hit that plant. But we do a lot of soybeans, a lot of clover, corn, and we've started to place the corn where there's more open field and not a lot of timber, and those places where we're finding it hard to get into our stand. So it's actually becoming an edging for those deer as well and muffling our movement to get into the stand. So we're strategically placing them to kind of create a hallway, if you will, for us to get into that stand and still have those deer feel safe wherever they're at around that corn or the soybeans.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. But what can you break down? How many acres of each are you planting?
Oh, we have about 100 acres that we just tilled up. So we're kind of doing them in 5-acre strip, and that's the width of them. So we have a strip of clover, strip of soybeans, strip of corn, and then another hay field, and then corn, soybeans, clover again, or alfalfa. And it just, again, that gives them that buffet style as well, where it keeps them interested long enough so they're not going to the neighbors to get the corn, or they're not going to the neighbors to get the soybeans. Just giving them that opportunity. And what I've actually found over the years, and I mentioned to my husband last year, is I work from home, so I'm able to watch these deer constantly, continuously all day long. And what I noticed is the territory of these mature bucks is detrimental to your herd too, because now, if you have only one large food plot, that mature buck is coming over because he wants that food plot, and he's kicking off all of your other potentials or your other mature bucks. And now they're scooting off and going to the neighbors. So what I observed was, if we put smaller food plots instead of one large one, that territory for those mature bucks, it becomes a little bit smaller because they're not noticing those other mature bucks in their food plot. So they each have kind of their own little zone. And that helped us a lot. And that's actually how I was able to kill my 6.5-year-old this year, because he was in a separate plot, even though it was only 800 yards away from another mature buck on the property. Well,
that's super interesting. So you think that having the split plots allowed for 2 mature bucks to be in that area?
I do. That's just kind of what I've been observing, and I really haven't read. We're constantly reading stuff from Dan Perez and Lee Lakowski and Kip from QDNA and all of that. And I haven't found an article that has mentioned any of this. This is just my own observation that I've noticed over the last years, because I can sit here and watch them all day while I'm working, and it's an observation that we've applied this year, and I think it's going to be very beneficial to us.
Yeah, very cool. When you say 100 acres, is this all just primarily for deer to go in and splurge on? Is there any farm harvest on this, or is it all for deer?
All deer.
Okay, and that's quite a bit of acreage for all deer.
Yep. We have a pretty good plot. We have a lot of topography here. That seems weird in Iowa, but we're in a section of Iowa where there is a lot of topography. It's actually, it looks exactly like Buffalo County, which is kind of why we picked this area as well. So. Gotcha.
Now, when you get into all these food plots, how do you go about placing your stands? What's your strategy on stand placement?
Yeah. Basically, we're going to look at where the deer are coming out. That's a huge one for us, where there's a pinch in the timber, in the topography, in the fields. We don't go, but gosh, I don't even think we have one that is more than 5 yards into the woods. We don't travel into the woods very much. And basically that's because our timber is all hill and topography. It's, straight down. And those bucks are using benches to cross and come up, and using those pinch points where it creates a natural funnel for them to get from the bottom to the top is a huge vantage point for us. So we sit there and watch that, and we'll place it depending on what wind we can get in there with and the access that we have to it. We create our food plots a little bit to help us get in there as well. But those pinch points are the biggest things that we look for, where their natural pattern is. And if you don't have to manipulate that too much, or if you help that a little bit with hinge cutting or whatever you want to do, that's great. But keeping it as natural as possible and their natural flow of things, it's been golden for us every single time when we've been hunting a mature deer.
So just to break this down, so you have 95% of your stands are 5 yards or less into the woods. And I'm assuming they're bordering a food plot and they're on a major corridor where the deer are funneling in and out of the field. Am I reading all this right?
Yep, correct. Yeah, and I might not be. My mind goes a million miles an hour with all of this, so you guys will have to slow me down a bit. Exactly what we're doing is getting where those deer are coming out into the field. Some of them, they're in a staging area where there's a natural pond or something, but our stands are really, I guess there is one that it's probably 75 yards in the woods, but it's a very narrow strip of timber, and it allows us to do it because it's right in the middle of that funnel where they cross to either go to one field or another or to a pond.
When you talk about being on a where they're funneling, do you have trouble getting in and out of the stand, either going in or coming out in the evening?
I have a unique situation. I don't know if you guys follow me on Instagram or not, but I solo hunt most of the time. I really can't stand when people are with me hunting, because if I mess up, I want it to be solely on me, and I don't want to be able to blame anybody else. So I film a lot of my stuff on my phone and do, short Instagram stories or Snapchat stories of all the deer around me. And for the majority of the season, I had 30 deer around me every night. I'm not exaggerating on the 30 deer. So I use a product called Nose Jammer, and it's really helped conceal my scent. It jams their senses, and it's completely natural. And I can go more into that later if you guys want, but I don't want to over-indict you guys with scientific stuff right now. But
we're aware of what Nose Jammer is. Yeah, it's a very interesting product.
It is, and some people don't like it, but I've killed every single one of my deer with it, and so has my husband. And if you looked at our wall right now, we have quite a few in our house. So it's been a great tool for us, and I think I proved it with deer surrounding me on every single side of the tree, 30 of them, mind you. So yeah, I have a little trouble getting in and out of stands at night. So generally what we do, because I don't have somebody hunting with me, whoever else is on the property that night comes and gets me in the Ranger and scares them off with the Ranger, versus me, human predator, coming out of a tree and then educating the deer. So that was one tactic we used.
That makes sense. As long as you got somebody there to run the Ranger, I reckon.
Yep, definitely. There were a couple of times where I had to kind of sit there for a while and wait for the coyotes kind of to start howling and kick them out. But most of the time, it was the Ranger coming to get me.
When you talk about tree stands, what do you prefer? Hang on, ladders, ground blinds? What do you guys use?
We'd rather prefer just the hang-ons. They're pretty convenient for us. I can put them up easily myself. Ladder sticks, or we try not to damage our trees too much with the step. But if it's a crooked, nasty tree, we have to do it. But definitely the ladder sticks, and then the hang-ons. The ladders, we have a couple of them up, but that's kind of for grandpas and dads that come and hunt. We want them to be a little bit safer. Not that we're not safe with our harnesses, but they're not used to wearing harnesses, or, not the bigger style ones, and they're bigger guys, so they'll do the ladders. But we generally do the hang-ons.
It sounds like there's quite the grudge between you and your husband.
Yeah. As
far as when it comes to helping out or hunting with.
Yeah, we don't fight ever. Like you meet us and you meet our friends and family, and yeah, they'll tell you how disgustingly in love we are or whatever. But when it comes to especially tree stand placement, it is full on World War III. It is. I can't even tell you. Like we just butt heads no matter what when we are putting up stands. So we've just started putting up our own stands, and it's interesting when we have a certain buck come past one of them, and we're like, honey, can I go hunt your stand tonight? I think I have them powder in the later stand. And then you just come home and you're like, well, why didn't you trim it out this way? And whatever else. But no, it's good.
That's fantastic.
Oh, that is great. Oh man, that's something that I can see can be a real issue if you're both after a particular buck or in the same area, and it's probably quite entertaining also. When you get into when you get into your scent control, and I'm going to kind of lead into your scent control and your camouflage and your bow here, what are you guys using other than nose jammer to kind of control that scent?
Yeah, so I've tried everything over the years. I helped out with an outfitter before I met my husband back in, and it was kind of tough figuring out what to put on clients or what to use yourself. And the problem I was really having was, as a female, I like to look good when I'm not in camouflage. So I didn't really like that my hair would dry out so much with all of the products that were out there. And Nose Jammer has a shampoo and conditioner, and it's full of like coconut oils, and I use it year round now. I don't even use other shampoo because it's just so healthy for my hair. We will spray down with deodorizer, just kind of whatever's on sale at Fleet Farm or something. And then we always spray down with Nose Jammer, and I spray the bottom of my soles of my boots before I, right as I step in the Ranger. And then again, when I step out of the Ranger, while the Ranger's still running, to mask that sound, because our deer are used to the Ranger sound. And so I'll spray the bottom of my soles and the inside and outside of my pant leg and walk in. That way that's masking my scent as I'm walking into my stand. And then when I get up into my stand and set up, I go ahead and do the recommended, I think it's on the can, it says 5 to 10 seconds in the shape of an X on the tree. But I've noticed that the longer that you spray it, the better the cloud creates and the better it works on those big mature bucks.
Gotcha. Well, that sounds like it's working pretty well if you got 30 deer around you in one set.
Yeah, that's where I kind of just laugh when people say that stuff is crap. I'm like, oh, well, how long do you spray it for? Because I have no problem.
Sure. Let's tell us what kind of camouflage you're wearing when you go to the whitetail woods.
Yeah, so I have always struggled with trying to keep warm in the woods since I was little, and that was really my only deterrent of not pursuing going after hunting harder. And my husband actually introduced me to Sitka gear and was just raving about how warm it was and blah, blah, blah. And I had worn numerous other camos before I met him. And granted, they were all men's, but still, you buy this $500 suit and you're like, oh, this should be warm, and it's heavy, and you can't carry it out to the stand because it's so heavy, and you're freezing 2 seconds after you put it on. And I went ahead and bought my first set of Sitka that second season I was with my husband, and bought the Fanatic bibs, and it was a complete game changer. I couldn't believe the difference. And I actually was able to hunt 23 straight days in Iowa. And the temperatures between those 23 days ranged from 70 degrees with a wind chill of -12. And obviously I had layers on, so I was shedding or putting on and whatever. But the majority of that hunt, I wore those bibs, and I sat all day during the rut and had 5 does bedded in front of me. And it was much warmer before they bedded down. So I had my big jacket off because the sun was out while they bedded down, and the clouds came in and a sleet storm came in. And I was like, crap, what am I going to do? I can't get my jacket on. They're literally bedded right in front of me. I can't do this. I can't bust them because I've been seeing deer galore today. And it was one of my last hunts at that outfitter and at Seal Creek Outfitters in Iowa. And I just sat there with my bibs, and I was fine the whole time. Like, I thought for sure I'd be just freezing too much and have to get up and put it on, but I never had to. And that was when I was like, I'm sold on this Sitka stuff, and bought the whole thing. And I couldn't hunt the way I do without it.
Right. Very good. What kind of bow are you shooting?
So I just received, and I've been hunting with the Avail, the Matthews Avail, this turkey season. I'd been using a Prime Ion before that, and it's been a great bow, but I needed to go up in poundage, and my bow didn't go up anymore. And a couple of the girls, Jenny Ferries and Alex Templeton, all said, because I really wasn't a fan of Matthews. Before that, I thought their bows were too heavy, and it just wasn't appealing to me. But they're like, no, you got to try this Avail. And I shot it and I'm like, holy crap, like this is lighter than my prime. And it's been a good fit so far. I have yet to kill something with it, but hopefully soon, and hopefully not with 4 people in the blind.
Right. Without a crowd.
Yeah.
Any particular arrows you're shooting with your bow?
So I've been shooting the gold tip arrows. They're the, what are they? 400 grain, but they are slimmer. I was using Bloodsport for a while there, but the way my patterns were going, they kept cutting. So then I switched to these gold tips, which they're more weighted on by the broadhead, and that helped my accuracy a ton. So that's kind of what I'm sticking with here now.
Gotcha. Any particular broadhead?
I'm actually in the market for the broadheads because I won't name the company or anything. They're great. They're a fixed blade, but all the deer that we shot this year were under 20 yards and either lung shot or lung and heart shot, and there was no blood trail. So it really created this sense of panic in both my husband and I when we thought our shots were perfect, and we usually do very well at that, but we weren't finding any blood. And then, thank God, we kept looking, and we found the deer 200 yards away. And when we were processing them, there was a clear lung shot, clear lung and heart shot on the one, when those deer should have been down right then and there, or not been at 200 yards away. So we're looking at a mechanical or a hypodermic of some sort. And so if you guys have any recommendations, we're still researching them, but we're definitely switching from what we had.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So Shannon, tell me about your television show that you've got coming out. It looks like it's going to be one of the newly featured shows on the Outdoor Channel. And I don't always see a lot of new shows being featured on the Outdoor Channel, so this is kind of special. You want to give us the premise of the show?
Yeah, it's absolutely special because I've never seen them do this either. And it's the premise of the show is basically why you guys contacted me and why people know who I am is because of social media, Instagram, Facebook. And it's really become a platform, especially for female hunters. Again, there's like a lot of negativity around it, but there's a lot of positivity around it.
Right.
And basically what the Outdoor Channel and Matt Busbis, who is his crew, is the producers of the show, is they came up with this idea of, we see all of these Insta-famous huntresses on here, but do we know if they actually can kill an animal or actually know how to hunt? Or do they just sit there and pose with their bow or pose with their gun and look pretty at the end of the day?
That makes sense.
And yeah, it absolutely does. And that's what every single, guy in the industry is getting upset about.
Right. Well, and
chicks are getting
and rightfully so, because you can create. You could pretend to have a whole lifestyle. You could do your whole vacation and never leave your house and make it look like you've went all over the world. So social media is cool, but there's let's face it. There's a lot of fabrication that goes into social media. So I kind of understand the premise of that show. I get that.
Oh, yeah, I do too, and I loved it. Well, actually, I take that back. I put Matt Busbis was the one who contacted me first and said, hey, we're looking to put a few girls on the show, wondering if you'd be interested. I'll bring you down to Alla, Louisiana. You can hunt my deer during October. And I was like, whoa. Listen here, guy. It's October. My season starts October 1st here in Iowa. I'm not coming to Louisiana to shoot no 120-inch buck. Like, I put him through
Did you really say to Matt Busbis, you went, hey, listen here, guy?
I did, because I didn't know who he was. I had no idea who he was.
That's fantastic.
And because I barely watch TV, so I had no idea who he was. So he and he'll say, and he'll listen to this and be like, yep, she really did say that. He's like, crap, I really have to get this girl on there now. Like, I have to prove to her that I have something bigger than a 120-inch deer on my farm.
Right.
Or on a ranch, I guess they call it down there.
Right.
But I put him through the ringer, and he was a good sport about it. And it wasn't until the night before our flight that I actually looked him up and on Google and whatever. And country bucks popped up, and Willie Robertson, Jason Aldean, Luke Bryan, they're all hunting at this place I'm supposed to be going in the morning. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Jacob, what did I do?
Right.
I insulted this awesome guy.
Right.
Oh man, all right, I can't believe he invited me. But so I pretty much just, we were told that it was a competition series. It was girls that were on Instagram that have never been on a show before, and it was a Boone and Crockett scoring system. So whoever shot the biggest buck, it's their Boone and Crockett score. Well, then you have doe bonuses, critter bonuses, nuisance animal bonuses, predator bonuses, fishing bonuses, and a couple other competition bonuses that add 10 points if you kill a doe or kill a hog or catch a fish or whatever the competition was. So each of those 10 points gets added to your Boone and Crockett score. So if you shoot a 200-inch deer off the bat, you just keep adding 10 points to it. Well, if you shoot a 90-inch deer, you could still win the competition if you go hard at, getting the nuisance animals or the does or whatever. And all of the meat was either eaten by us or the floods in Louisiana had just happened. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the meat was donated to the Allah House. The local sheriff put that on, grinds up all the meat and gives it to the homeless there. I think it was in Baton Rouge. So all of the meat was utilized. It wasn't like we were just going, and even the hogs and everything was either eaten by us or utilized by the local communities and helping them out. So that was pretty sweet. So yeah, that's kind of the premise. So it's kind of seeing if we can actually walk the walk and not just post the post, I guess you could say.
Look the look. You got to walk the walk and instead of looking the look. So
Yep, exactly.
Can you give us a little sneak peek about anything that we might want to tune into? Like not to tell us exactly, but what are some of the things that we should pay attention to, and what day does it launch?
Yeah, so the show airs May 11th. It's a Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time on the Outdoor Channel. That's the only place you can watch it right now. It might come out on the MoTV app later on, but right now that's the only place you can watch it.
Okay.
So it's going to be only 6 episodes. So before you blink, it'll be gone. And there's a lot of drama on it. I think somebody gets fired from the producing crew. I never confirmed that.
Excellent.
Yeah, but it's it gets kind of intense. And Willie Robertson's there and helping us and giving us pro tips. I don't know how much of a pro tip he gave us, but, he was fun to have around.
Right.
He's an awesome guy.
I was going to say, he might tell you how to grow a beard, but he can tell you how to hunt a deer.
For real. Yeah, and I don't even know if they'll show this on the show or not, but he actually, he lives pretty close to that ranch, and he was driving down and he forgot his wallet. Well, he stopped for gas and was filling up and realized he forgot his wallet on the way there and had to bribe some kid to pay for his gas at a grocery store in Louisiana. Willie Robertson comes up to you, hey kid, can you pay for my gas? So he signed a couple broadheads for him, and the kid was just happier than anything in the entire world. Paying for Willie Robertson's gas. He's like, I felt like such an idiot.
I need that kind of clout in my life where I can just walk up to some kid, hey kid, I forgot my wallet. Can you pay for my gas? That's what I need.
Yeah.
Someday.
All you have to do is trim broadheads that are in the back of your pickup.
Right. That's right. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. It was pretty nuts. It was awesome though. I can tell you that I have an episode, and I'm actually not sure which episode it's going to be, but I'm assuming it'll be the second, third, or fourth one. I actually kill a doe and a hog. I kill a hog that is eating the doe that I just shot. So I stalk up on a hog and drill it. And it's a pretty insane hunt, and I can't believe that happened and went the way it did.
You killed a deer, and then the hog went to eat the deer, so you killed the hog too?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, you're not taking my meat. So
they have deer eating hogs. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, they'll suck the blood. It's nuts. They're terrible animals. We don't have them up here in Iowa or my part of Iowa, and I didn't realize, like, the little ones, they'll just, like, suck the blood right out of them, out of the carcasses.
Yeah.
And the larger ones will eat them down to nothing. So, like, if you want to get rid of a body, I'd buy some hogs. Like,
okay.
terrible.
All right, good. I'll make a note of that. Good to know. That's pretty funny. Now, I've heard hogs have this thirst for blood once they get a hold of it, and I'm not surprised that they seem to be kind of opportunistic omnivores.
Yeah, they're crazy.
Yep, definitely. Let's move on to a hunt. It sounds like your show's going to have some interesting twists and turns, and May 11th we'll be tuning into that. I think that should be pretty darn interesting. I'm glad you got the opportunity to try that out.
Yeah, thanks. I hope everyone responds well to it, and it's kind of nice because you get to see all of our mistakes. You know, we're hunters like the rest of y'all, and not every hunt goes the way you want it to, and using new weapons, and it's interesting. It'll definitely raise some controversy, that's for sure. And a lot of it's good and a lot of it's bad, but take it as it comes. And at the end of the day, all three of us girls were doing exactly what we love doing, and that was hunting and being outdoors and just enjoying what God created for us and getting some meat on the table.
Very, very cool. All right, so before we started our chat, I asked you to think of a memorable deer hunt that you've been on, and I've given you some time. I'm sure you've been mulling around in the back of your head since we asked the question. We've been talking about other things. So let's go on a hunt. Where are we going to go on this hunt of yours?
I definitely think we're going to go on, honestly, I think we're going to stick with probably my first archery hunt, or my first archery buck that I was able to harvest. Yeah, I mean, everybody remembers their first significant buck, and that was definitely it. I'd been bow hunting for 3 or 4 years before that, but just in Buffalo County, your standards are a little higher, and you're waiting for a Hope and Young at least, and it just never happened for me. And I really wasn't as intense of a hunter as I have become back then. And about 3 years went by and didn't kill a buck yet, and was waiting around and met my now husband, but he was hunting back in Minnesota and was going to come with me back to my property in Buffalo County. And I told him, no, you go, you think you have this buck patterned on yours. I'll just go and I'll sit. Well, this was the first time he let me go by myself. I'd hunted before by myself, but like he was kind of used to going with girls, whoever, he got into hunting or was dating or whatever it was. And so he's like, are you sure? Okay, well, good luck. I'm like, yep, good luck. So I head out to Buffalo County, and the property is right behind my dad's house, about a half a mile back. So it's kind of a trek of a walk, and started walking back, and they were picking the corn, the neighbors were, and I was watching them and watching 4 deer 50 yards from the combine, just waiting for them to like drop the corn and go eat it. I just said, I should just be hunting out of the combine. This is crap.
Right.
They're taking all my deer. So I'm walking and paying attention to the combine and the deer by the combine, and I kick up a nice buck and 2 does, like right on the edge of the field. And I'm like, oh, great. There that goes. It's 4:00 in the afternoon. And I'm like, all right, I already got in here a little bit late, and I get into my stand, and I'm sitting there, and it's getting kind of close to the dark, about a half hour close to dark, and started throwing a couple grunts out, and I've actually had quite a bit of luck with doing like a breeder buck call.
Okay, yeah.
That low, deep, long tone.
Yep.
And I was just playing around with it at the time. I really hadn't played much with grunting, but I did one of those, and not even a minute later, up and over the hill, over the bluff, comes this buck. I'm like, oh crap! I'm like, all right, I got my spot picked out. I'm all right, and I'm texting my best friend on my phone. And everyone always yells at me because that's why I hate being with people, because they're like, get off your phone. I'm like, I have to be on my phone otherwise I'm going to fall asleep. Like I'm just that kind of person. So I'm texting my girlfriend on my phone. I'm like, oh, I got a buck. I got to go. And text Jacob. Jacob had just texted me, and he was like, are you seeing anything? And I said, nope, not yet. And that's when the buck came down. So I put my phone away finally, and followed that buck until he got to my spot, which was, I ranged it at 17 yards before that, and knew he was at 17 yards, and I didn't even have to stop him at all. He just stopped right where he needed to and put it right on his vitals and let it go.
Nice.
And I'm the kind of person, and it's very helpful for me, I don't freak out until I let that trigger go.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good. That's a good trait to have.
It's really helpful. But after that, then I just start shaking uncontrollably, and I'm done. Yeah. And I'm watching this buck, and I'm like, after I let the arrow go, a million thoughts go through your head, like, oh God, what if I hit him wrong? Because I black out because I get so excited too. Like, I let the arrow go, and then I black out, and I don't remember what happened. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh God, I think I hit him right. I thought I saw the arrow hit him, and it like made a good smack, like that, that good sound. And I'm like, oh God, what if he runs up over the hill? Then I'm going to have to go and walk and find him. And at the time I was still working at a bank, and I'm like, oh God, now I'm going to be late for work, and blah, blah. Just all these thoughts going through my head. And I'm trying to watch him and trying to find him, and I find him, and I see him go down in the field about 100 yards out. And I just lost. Just bawling. This is a property that's been in my family for like this 17 corner of a bluff. He died practically instantly. My first buck, it was a double lung pass through. Like, it was picture perfect. And went up and grabbed him, and it was overlooking the old farmstead. And like, I just couldn't help but feel like all of the hard work, like my great grandpa put into it, my grandpa, my dad, and they weren't even hunter, like hard, like management hunters. They just went out when they could, or, put meat on the table. But them providing this land for me was really, really something neat, and something I'm so thankful for now. And I was then, and I just completely lost it, and went and got my dad from the house, and he helped me gut it. And my little stepbrothers came out too, and they'd never seen that before. So introduced them to that. And so it was a really cool moment, that I was able to like just do it on my own and, get it done like that. That was really neat to me.
Very, very cool. Excellent. So you told us 2 great deer stories in one show. So well done. Very well done. And I specifically like the blackout moment. I think that's pretty funny. That explains the gap in texting, like from the moment that you shot it to not telling anybody about it for a little while. It's the blackout period.
Oh, well, I did text Jacob, and it was 3 minutes from my last text to the text saying shot him. And that's all I sent him. Right. And he's like, what just happened?
That's what I'm saying. There's that. It's a 3-minute blackout period. Now I get it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like it was nuts. And I black out all the time when I get excited. It's so funny. I'll be shed hunting, and I'll find these sheds, and I'll be like, I make noises all the time. I'm very sporadic. Like, oh, there's a shed. And they're like, oh, how was it laying? And I'm like, I have no idea. I kind of blacked out when I see them. Just get way too. I'm like that little puppy.
Right. I don't know what just happened, but it was cool. All right.
Right.
Very good. All right. Well, we're definitely learning lots about you, Shannon, and I was wondering if we could go on
probably too much.
No. We never learn too much ever. But we wanted to put you through our 10 rapid fire questions protocol here, and that's going to really open it up even more to find out more about who you are. And I'm going to turn it back over to Dusty, and he's going to run you through. So good luck.
Are you ready for it? Are you ready for the 10 rapid fire?
I think so.
These are questions that we did not prep you for, and you haven't heard any of these, so let's get rolling.
Oh, man.
Your number 1 hunting tip.
Number 1 what?
Hunting tip.
Oh, number 1 hunting tip?
Yes.
Stay calm. Just suck it in until after it's done. Like, just focus. Just be sure you're focused no matter what, whether it's just a little buck or a doe walking past you. Like, don't freak out. You just got to keep it all in because that buck could be behind him.
Great hunting tip. One thing that you cannot hunt without. We all got this one thing that we can't go to the woods without, other than your firearm or your bow. What's that one thing you cannot hunt without?
Probably my nose jammer. just like it creates this, like if I don't have it or if I forgot it, like I already defeated myself on that hunt. Like it's just a psychological thing now with me. Like I know I'm covered. I know I'm good if I have that nose jammer with. And if I don't have it, you might as well not even take me out to the stand.
Okay. What's your biggest pet peeve in life?
People not, how do I say that? People not joining in on successes of others, like putting down people when they're doing well. I've seen this my whole life with friends and family and acquaintances, and it's blown my mind when somebody's doing well, how people need to put them down. And I say if somebody is in a bad area of their life or a really good area of their life, you should be positive and uplifting to those people all the time.
Very good. What would you tell yourself, knowing what you know today? What would you tell your 27 or 20-year-old self?
That was 7 years ago. Actually, a lot. I would tell her to remember to thank God every day for what he had given me, what he is giving me, and what he will give me. Because every morning I wake up now thanking God, and like life just keeps getting better. And like God, all God wants is a little recognition and a little thanks.
Very good. You meet a stranger in a hotel lobby or at a convention on the elevator, and they ask, "What do you do for a living?" What do you say?
I am a social media marketer.
What did you have for breakfast this morning?
What did I have? I had a bagel with cream cheese and an egg and spinach on it. Yeah, that's what I had.
Very good. You get your own billboard, let's say on the side of the highway or going into a major city. It's a blank canvas. What would you put on that?
I'd probably just leave it white and put the saying, "Hunt your dreams" on it.
Very good. I say the word successful. Who's the first person to pop in your mind and why?
My husband, definitely. He came from nothing, and we might not be what some call successful yet, or we might not have reached our goals yet, but he works so hard as a land broker and learned it all himself. He didn't grow up farming. He didn't grow up in land, and he has become one of the experts in it. And his way about going about business and his professional stance he has with that. And then not only that, but he is the best husband and my best friend. And he knows how to give time to each of those and is never afraid to thank God for everything he has, or even ask God, what do I do next? Or am I doing the right thing? And he is just an all-around individual that I admire to be. So that's what my definition of success is someone that I admire.
Very good. What's a day in your life look like?
I generally wake up and too early because my husband's alarm is going off. In my sense of waking up, I could sleep all day sometimes. But I wake up with him every morning, make him breakfast, send him on his way, and then I sit there and read emails and watch out the window and scout my deer or turkeys almost every single day with my vortex scope here. I'm pretty much stuck in that spot, hammering away for my clients every day. And we shut down at about 6 o'clock and I start making supper, and then I spend the rest of it with my husband. Very good.
What's a hunting day in your life look like?
Then I have no problem getting up that early in the morning. And I still get up, still make breakfast for my husband, coffee. I generally take a Blaze. It's a Mountain Ops product, which helps focus and energy. And it really keeps me focused and alert out in the woods. When I'm getting a little tired, I then go ahead and go out to the garage and throw on all of my camo, my Sitka gear, get my nose jammer, of course, and head out. We generally plan where we're going the night before unless the wind changes drastically in the morning. But then head out and get on up in that muddy stand and generally stay out till about 9 and come back in for lunch and head back out around 2 and sometimes 1 o'clock because my deer like to move really early because they feel so comfortable. So they move really early. It's pretty nuts. So sometimes I feel like I should just stay out there all day, the way that they're moving. But, yeah. And then hopefully at the end of the day, I put some meat on the table, God willing.
Very good. Well, that wraps up the 10 rapid-fire questions.
Very well done, Shannon. Nice job.
Perfect.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Shannon, this has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And from going back to Buck Knuckles and Buffalo County, Wisconsin, all the way down to where you're living now and your strategies and setups. And it sounds like you really put some thought into how you're going about your deer hunting down there and managing the herd. And I really like learning about your blackout moments between the time that you shoot a deer and when you text next, and your television show, of course, that's coming out on May 11th. So thank you for taking the time to kind of share your life with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys. I had a blast.
How do you like them apples?
Oh, man, she's got a lot of knowledge and seems to be quite competitive with her husband, Jay.
She's a competitive gal. The stuff that she described about how she does her food plots in different areas to keep more larger bucks on her property at all times so that they don't venture out to the other properties because of the competition that she's recognizing with buck to buck, I thought was brilliant. And
yeah, no doubt.
I haven't heard anybody say that before, but it makes sense.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with that more.
Appreciate Shannon coming on and really opening up, and I think we learned a lot about her. I think we asked some questions that she wasn't expecting, and she played along, so that was very much appreciated. And it's nice to hear who people really are. She is the real deal. I don't think Shannon can be anybody but herself, and she's got it going on. So good luck to Shannon on her television show. Dusty, what do we have this week for the Chubby Tines Tip of the Week?
It's turkey season, so let's have a turkey tip, you know.
The Chubby Tines Tip of the Week is sponsored by Morse's Sporting Goods. Firearms, used firearms, bows, used bows, located at 85 Kentucky Falls Road in Hillsborough, New Hampshire. Give Jim a call at 603-464-3444, morsessportinggoods.com. Your dollars go further in New Hampshire. There's no sales tax. Morse's Sporting Goods.
Sometimes that old gobbler gets hung up with them hens, and I tell you what, if you can get in there, get set up where they're roosting. If he flies down, hens up, try to piss that hen off. Make her upset that you're calling to her man. So I think if you get in there and you make that hen aggravated, you got your odds of that hen coming over and calling her right in and her getting upset with your decoy set up. And, if she comes, you know what's going to be behind her, Jay. It's going to be that big thunder chicken back there.
Right. That's right.
Got its head off. So I think sometimes your strategy is really just to focus on calling him in, but if you can make her mad, she'll come in no different than that big Tom will.
Mm-hmm. From the field, from experience over the last 20 years, I have killed many a longbeard by working the hen or the hens in front of that longbeard first to the point where they almost sat on my lap multiple times, and then they finally decided, once I could get near them, I could spook them off, and they'd go running, and the Tom was lagging behind, as they do. The Tom didn't know what was going on because he didn't see me move, but the hens did, and it was just enough to get him out of range and pull that Tom in because he's following the hens. It's a great strategy.
It's amazing. If you can make a hen upset, she'll come in and she'll flog your decoys better than the Tom will sometimes.
Exactly. Great tip, especially this time of year. Well, awesome, man. I've had a really good time, and I wanted to say thank you to all of our sponsors once again. Thank you to Advanced Takedown Tree Stands. Thank you to Covert Scouting Cameras. Thank you to the Horny Buck Seed Company. And thank you to the Euro Hanger and Morse's Sporting Goods for helping us make this show happen. Dusty, where can we find you when we're not hanging out here in Big Buck Studios?
Shoot me an email, dusty@bigbuckregistry.com. You can look me up on Facebook, Chubby Tines Outdoors, and at Chasing Antler on Instagram and Twitter. Jay, where can the people reach out to you when you're not on the mic?
You can find me here at the studios, and you can reach me by emailing me, jay@bigbuckregistry.com, or calling me 724-613-2825. Leave me a voicemail. You can always check out our Facebook page, where there are 250,000 diehard deer hunting fans just like yourself hanging out and checking out each other's bucks that we shot, and just lots and lots of content. And this podcast will appear on the Facebook page as well, as it does each and every week. And that is facebook.com/Big Buck Registry. We're also on the other big platforms, which is Twitter BigBuckRegistry.com/Twitter, and we are on Instagram, Instagram.com/BigBuckRegistry, and on YouTube, which is YouTube.com/BigBuckRegistry, where you can see all the videos we've ever done, whether it's at a trade show or if we're at a special event or if we're interviewing just somebody on the fly or anything that we've recorded for seminars, and each and every one of our podcasts gets featured there, and all the audio gets created into this kind of primitive video, but you can actually listen to our show over there. If you're an iTunes user, please hit that subscribe button so you can be alerted every time a new show comes out. And if you wouldn't mind, leave us a review. We're also found on Stitcher, Blueberry, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn Radio. And I think that's pretty much everywhere you can find us.
It's a whole lot of Big Buck.
It's a tremendous amount of Big Buck. Yes, sir, it is.
Well, Jay, I think that's a wrap on this week's show. Thank you to everybody for tuning in with us week after week. Much appreciated. I'm Dusty Phillips.
And I'm Jay Scott.
And you've listened to another great episode of the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast. We'll see you all next week.
Can't wait.